Alright, what is up everybody? This is Alex and Sam, once again with the EOT News Flash. We are back for the very last time for our Ikoria Lair of Behemoths limited set review. It's been a very long week, but we are capping it off tonight with the gold, the artifact / colorless cards, and of course the lands. If you haven't already, definitely go back and check out the white, blue, black, red, and green cards we've already reviewed so far. Lots of good content there. Full disclosure, we've played with some of these cards now. The set's been out on Magic Arena and Magic Online for about 2 weeks now. So we actually have some concrete opinions about these cards other than just arbitrary, this is how I feel statements. So yeah, that being said, jump right into the rating scale. The ones are the cards you should never play. They are trash, complete garbage fires. 2 are the cards you should probably, for the most part, usually play in your decks. They're your more basic filler. About 70% of the deck that you'll play is going to be made up of these. 3s are the cards that you're going to open up. They're your gold signposts on commons, more premium removal, creatures and things like that. And the 4s are the absolute bombs that will pull you into a color up in a draft, really pull your deck together, and typically end games for you. We've only given out 1 4 so far. Vivian was our only 4 thus far, as I can recall. But now that we're in the gold section, where the real power lies in this set, I think, we're going to see some pretty ridiculous cards here. So jump right into it. Oh, yeah, can't forget, we have sideboard, S for sideboard, cards you bring in against your opponent's more niche threats. Bs are the build around me cards that need to have their deck built around them to be functionally correct. And then, of course, we have the awe factor, which you'll know when she does this.
Aww.
Basically ranking on how adorable things are. So you're not convinced that there's a lot of that in this section of the video, though, right?
I'm not quite convinced yet.
Okay. We'll see if I can change her mind, because there are some cuddly little creatures in this set, so...
Definitely not on this one. This is back for more. It's a 4, a black, and a green. It is an instant uncommon. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. When you do, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control.
This is scary stuff. This card I first played against and was my first exposure to just how broken the companion mechanic is. We'll get to that one soon. This card by itself, though, is pretty damn powerful. Instant speed reanimation is very, very rare. Even though this does cost a bit of mana, I can see this easily being a very solid first pick in a draft if you want to go more grindy control route, where you're going to have things dying. You're going to put things into the graveyard with the mole. Mills 3 cards, I can see some play there. So this does a lot of really cool things, and if, of course, your target is big enough, it's going to kill something else and makes for a pretty good surprise block fight, and, 2 for 1 there. So this is a really powerful card. This is a 2.5. Next up,
Boneyard Lurker. Wow.
No awe?
No. It's a 2, a black, and a green creature, Nightmare Beast, uncommon, 4/4. Whenever this creature mutates, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. It mutates for 2, and either...
black-green hybrids.
Yeah, that thing.
Yep. So this is, we've seen this a couple times already in green, getting back permanents from your graveyard, and this is a really solid threat that goes into an archetype like that. Excavation Mole plays really well with. The Call of the, I forget the black card that brings back up to 3 convert mana cost of creatures coming back from your graveyard. That all kind of falls in this category here, and this card is surprisingly efficient at what it does. Permanents are the core of any limited game. Creatures are dying, and to be able to pull back any permanent from your graveyard just makes this thing really, really powerful. And the fact that it's repeatable as long as you're mutating onto it, scary, scary stuff. This thing is a true nightmare and a solid 2.5 here for me. Then there's this big happy goober.
Okay. Brokos, Apex of Forever. It's a 2, a black, a green, and a blue. Legendary creature, Nightmare Beast Elemental. He is a mythic, 6/6 with trample. You may cast Brokos, Apex of Forever from your graveyard using its mutate ability, and it mutates for 2, a blue-black hybrid, and 2 green.
Yeah. So this is the first of our wedge-colored mythics. There's obviously 5 in this set. And Brokos it's raw power only. he doesn't have a lot of added utility to him. But just the fact that it's next to impossible to get rid of him unless you can exile it or, lock it down somehow. This thing is going to keep coming back and keep beating down until you do one of those aforementioned things. And it's a really potent threat, incredibly potent threat. And the fact that it's relatively cheap at only 5 mana is pretty impressive. These are the cards that, like, I think all of the mythic rares in this set, especially the shard color or the wedge colored ones, are first pickable because they do so much and the mana fixing is there. So I would advocate for maybe warping your draft a little bit to play these cards because they are so powerful. That even the trade-off of maybe taking some less exciting cards to make sure these things play to their best ability is actually worth it because they are just that good. Brokos is a solid 3, just because, like I said, he is raw power. Forever. He is the apex of raw power.
If I had known that this thing was this powerful, I wouldn't have felt so bad for it on the other card where the dinosaur was getting ready to attack it.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, Brokos is a solid 3. Very, very powerful card indeed.
Channeled Force.
My girl Narset.
2, a blue and a red, instant uncommon. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard X cards. Target player draws X cards. Channeled Force deals X damage to up to 1 target creature or planeswalker.
X gonna give it to you. So here's a quiz for you. At what point do you think the X becomes? How high should X be for this to become relevant?
I don't know.
It's okay because this is a weird card. This is a strange card to work with here because this feels more like a constructed card. This is more of a standard card in my opinion. Just because when you cast this for 4 mana, even though it's at instant speed, you're telling me that you've got enough cards that are not useful in your hand that are worth discarding to kill something. And if this is a 4 mana spell that discards 2 to kill an X2, I think you're wasting mana. I think you're wasting a spell. This takes a lot to kill bigger things too, and you've got to have enough gas in your hand to get rid of, to draw more, but at the same time, what are you discarding? There's a really weird push-pull to this card. That being said, the blue-red spells archetype in this set is incredibly powerful. Lots of cycling in this set to go along with it. So this is a serious build-around card because the cards you toss away need to be either not worth it or worth it in some other way. But when you get it, and it works great, it's pretty solid. This is a solid 2 for me, but there's a lot of build-around hoops to get this thing going in the right direction, and you've got to be in a blue-red spell stick to make it most effective. Moving on!
Chevel.
It's Chevelle. It's like that band, from the 2000s.
No. Bane of Monsters. Excuse me. He's a black and a green legendary creature, human rogue, mythic. 1/3 with Death Touch. At the beginning of your upkeep, if your opponents control no permanents with bounty counters on them, put a bounty counter on target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. Whenever a permanent an opponent controls with a bounty counter on it dies, you gain 3 life and draw a card.
That's a lot of text.
A little bit.
This doesn't really do a whole lot, if you ask me.
It says a whole lot, but doesn't do much.
Yeah. So the Death Touch is cool because this comes out incredibly early, and the fact that this happens in your upkeep, it has to survive a rotation to even get its first trigger. And at that point, if you're attacking with it, it's only going to take down one thing. One power is a massive downside for this thing, because you can double block it. Why would you? But it's only taking down one thing. But I imagine that if you play this on turn 2, let's say, and you're attacking on turn 3, your opponent's not blocking this thing. There's no reason they would block this thing to let you get the bounty off of whatever you put the counter on. And if you think you're going to hold up removal in this deck that you're playing to constantly answer their threats one for one, eventually you're going to run out, and Chevelle's just not going to do a whole lot, I think. cool theme, cool flavor, but it just doesn't do enough for me. I'm not really impressed by this card that much. Yeah, it's cool. It's a 2. I could be proven wrong. But not impressed by it right now.
He is a bane of his own existence.
Yes. That being said, the animation is pretty cool when you play him, because he pulls out this giant saw blade thing, this Monster Hunter sized sword, and just kind of swings it around. That's kind of neat. But other than that,
that thing that's in the art with him.
Yep, that thing. He's otherwise just not very cool though. Solid. It's a 2. It's good, but not going my way to play him. And he's in the wrong colors for the human deck too. Okay, and moving on. Sorry.
Death's Oasis. It's a white, a black, and a green enchantment. It is a rare.
Yep.
That one was hard to see. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard, then return a creature card with lesser converted mana cost than the creature that died from your graveyard to your hand. You can pay 1, sacrifice Death's Oasis. You gain life equal to the greatest converted mana cost. I almost had that among creatures you control.
Yeah, the rite of passage with these reviews is you can speak literally a sonnet's worth of flavor text in one breath.
I almost had it. You cheated.
You were almost there.
You made me laugh. You cheated. You're censoring me.
Sorry. You'll have plenty more opportunity to do it. These cards get ridiculous. This card is really weird. This is a massive build around, because you're having to say that you have a card in your graveyard that is lower converted mana cost than whatever is dying, and to get those cards back. Granted, they go to your hand. That's a pretty cool effect, so you are constantly rebuying. But this is a massive hoop to jump through that you just cannot guarantee. And those top 2 cards of your library, you might need those. They might be your removal spells, your lands. You might need those cards. So this has got Commander written all over it. We're seeing a lot of that in these gold cards. That's what, gold seems to be for in these stats for Commander to just go crazy with. And the sacrifice ability, just like, it's whatever. Build around this thing if you can, but it's a 1.
Is it weird that I think the little demon bird death thingies are kind of cute?
No.
They're kind of cute.
They're kind of cute. Yeah. They just go to the Oasis. And anyway, here's Wonderwall. Alright, moving on.
Dire Tactics. A white and a black, instant, uncommon. Exile target creature. If you don't control a human, you lose life equal to the creature's
Toughness.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, this card's pretty good. Yeah, the human clause is kind of whatever. I've paid a lot more life than this to kill things, and you're exiling it too. There's only a few instances of exile in this set, and this by far is the best one, because this just kills anything. It's not damage based or anything like that. This just removes the problem. So the downside obviously is that you lose the life. If you can mitigate that, great, but if you're in white, you're probably already have a couple humans in your deck. So there's not a lot of downside to this if you play it in the right deck. If you're not, the downside is pretty real, but still a very powerful card indeed. This is a solid 2.5. Exile removal is always live. Always very good.
Oh my goodness. The first time I think I'll ever say I like an ultimatum. Eerie Ultimatum. 2 white, 3 black, 2 green. It's a sorcery rare. Return any number of permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield.
This is ridiculous. This is absolutely absurd. Different names. I mean, the chances of you having multiples of the same card in your limited deck, decent, but not great. If you're able to, and granted, this is a heavy, heavy commitment. I would not take this first in a draft. This is probably mid-pack 2, late pack 3 that I'm going to say, okay, my deck can do this. Let's go for it. I need all of the fixing possible to pull off these triggers here. Hopefully, I'm in a black-green deck that's splashing into white and not any other direction on that. Just the ability to return everything is so powerful. That being said, that mana cost is absolutely prohibitive. So, as good as this card is, it is a 1.5. But when it goes off, it's going to be sweet.
Did I misclassify that as an uncommon, or did I say rare?
You said rare.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, this is a really powerful card. It just takes one massive burning hoop over a shark tank of water to go off. So, 1.52. Good stuff. All right, moving on.
Another ultimatum. Oh my goodness, they're so cute.
There are 5 in this set.
Emergent ultimatum, 2 black, 3 green, 2 blue. Sorcery, rare. Search your library for up to 3 monocolored cards with different names and exile them. An opponent chooses one of those cards. Shuffle that card into your library. You may cast the other cards without paying their mana costs. Exile, emergent, ultimatum.
Yeah, so as with the Eerie Ultimatum, these are fortunately green ultimatums, which is the best color for these ultimatums because you've got the fixing, you've got Migration Path, you have the Migrant Beast that goes and gets lands when it mutates. There are ways to pull these off, and like I said, with Eerie Ultimatum, it's quite powerful. This one is also absurdly powerful as long as you've got 3 good permanents to go get with it. They need to be huge, though. We're talking like Archipelagor, any rare, you've got to have a good reason to go to play this card. Otherwise, you're just kind of wasting space. And giving your opponent the choice to get rid of one of them permanently could be a huge downside. Just like Eerie Ultimatum, these are more like commander cards. So this one has a big build around me component to it because you do need the threats to go and get with, and then you've got to get to that ridiculous mana cost. So wouldn't go out of my way to play this one. Again, this is a 1.5 to a 2. Powerful, but it's a steep cost.
Oh my. It's so cute. Frondland Felidar. 2, a green and a white creature cat beast. It is a rare 3/5 with vigilance. Creatures you control with vigilance have pay 1, tap, and tap target creature.
This card sucks.
But it's so cute.
It's cute, but this card sucks. Why is this a rare? I don't know. That wasn't rhetorical.
I don't know.
This card is not very good. This green-white vigilance thing, it's cute. It's cute. It's a cool sub-theme for the color combination. But this just doesn't do it for me at all. This is just not good. This is a 2, and it's a really bad 2. Not first pickable. If I'm in green-white, I might play it. I might not play it. But yeah, not excited about this card at all. Not very good. But yeah, if you're going to play a mid-range green-white deck, go for it. Moving on.
General Kudro of Drannith. 1, a white and a black legendary creature, human soldier. He is a mythic. 3/3. Other humans you control get +1/+1. Whenever General Kudro of Drannith or another human enters the battlefield under your control, exile target card from an opponent's graveyard, pay 2, sacrifice 2 humans, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater.
Nice job. One breath?
No.
Ah. Could have fooled me. Yeah, so do you know the diabetes meme?
No.
The old guy with the mustache, and he's like, diabetes.
Oh, yes.
That's him.
Oh. Oh. Like, actually.
No, it's not actually him, but it looks like him. Anyway, so I will confess to have passed this thing, pick 1, pack 1 in a draft already. I was not high on the archetype, but this card is still pretty damn powerful. This goes best into a go-wide strategy, maybe has a little bit of cycling to go along with it to make lots of human tokens, and just make them bigger. And the ability to just sacrifice those humans to destroy those big creatures that you're probably facing down against is significant as well. This is one of the few instances of graveyard hate, being able to exile things from your graveyard. Probably won't matter as much, but that's more of like a constructed level standard type effect. But you're in black, so you've got the ability to play some of the cards called the Death Dweller. The Death Dealer, I think is what it's called. That gets you cards back from your graveyard with mana cost up to 3, like 2 of them. Plays really nicely with this. So this is a really powerful card in the right deck. It just needs to be built around. But once you do, you're in great shape. This is a solid 2.5 for me. Really like this card.
He looks mean.
He's grumpy.
General's Enforcer, a white and a black creature human soldier. He is an uncommon 2/3. Legendary humans you control have indestructible. Pay 2, a white and a black. Exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a creature card, create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token.
Hey, look, fuel for General Kudrow.
Yeah.
It's almost like these things go together.
Right?
Yeah, this card is fine. We've seen a bunch of cards, this asymmetric power toughness on a very cheap creature. It's aggressive. It has, random flavor text about it being other things being indestructible, which is cool, I guess. And this is probably one of the other few instances of graveyard hate in the format. And if you can, the game goes along and you're able to just constantly remove threats and make more tokens, you've got a pretty good go white strategy. And there's a couple of payoff cards, some of the anthem effects that can go well with this. So this is pretty serviceable here. It's a solid 2. It's not that exciting, but it can get the job done if you're black-white humans. All right, here we go.
Genesis Ultimatum. 2 green, 3 blue, 2 red. Sorcery, rare. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. Put any number of permanent cards from among them onto the battlefield and the rest into your hand. Exile Genesis Ultimatum.
Yep, so again, none of these ultimatums. Ridiculous mana cost. We're in green still, so that is a good thing that we can fix these colors pretty well. The strange thing about this card is that it's not in the colors to play permanents, really, because your blue-red is kind of this weird spell-based deck. Green-red is more aggressive creatures. Green-blue is more mutated. There's some weird push-pull on this one, I think. The fact that it can hit any permanent is pretty powerful. Yeah, for the rest... Oh, this just draws you 5 cards. Okay, yeah, I misread this thing. So, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't matter. This card's amazing. It just puts the rest in your hand. I completely misread this. Wow, it's been a long week. Yeah, so put your lands into play, your creatures into play, put your spells in your hand. Doesn't matter. This card's amazing. As long as you can hit that mana cost, 2.5. Grindy teamer control decks. Love it. Moving on!
Flying kitty dinosaur thingy. Yes. Illuna Apex of Wishes. A 2 green, blue, and a red. Legendary creature, beast elemental dinosaur. Why doesn't mention no kitty in there? It is
because
a mythic.
It's not a cat.
That is so clearly a kitty cat.
We'll get to the cat.
It is a mythic 6/6 with flying and trample. Whenever this creature mutates, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land permanent card. Put that card onto the battlefield or into your hand, and it mutates for 3 a white and for 3 a red and a green hybrid.
Yep.
And 2 blue.
Yeah. So I've been playing this one in standard. There's a really cool list that Patrick Diekman posted that's all mutates, and this thing is part of that deck, and it goes insane. Whether or not that translates into limited, I'm not sure yet. I haven't seen this one they played yet. But my feeling is that it's still just as good, because you are able to get a free permanent, whether it's a land or whatever. And if you're in a mutate deck already, you're probably going to be heavily in permanents. You've got a couple of cool things you can do with your red spells, like your draw spells and whatnot. But for the most part, this is a blue-green deck that is touching red and can just get all kinds of wild things going. More creatures to mutate onto, put those other cards into your hand to mutate onto later. This thing does a lot. And, as we touched on with Genesis Ultimatum, you're still in green, so you have the ability to fix your mana pretty reliably. So I do have to dock a little bit for the mana cost, but beyond that, Illuna is absolutely absurd. The power level is off the chart on this card. This is a solid 3 for any mid-range blue-green deck. Probably not blue-red, but still very, very powerful.
It's still a cat.
We'll get to the cats. Or is it
a cow? Does it not meow?
Oh, God.
Inspired Ultimatum. 2 blue, 3 red, 2 white.
Good.
Sorcery, rare. You okay?
This card's so incredible.
Target player gains 5 life. Inspired Ultimatum deals 5 damage to any target. Then you draw 5 cards.
This is so wild. The only problem with this card for limited is that mana cost. It's so hard to pull this off because you're not in green. all of the non-green ultimatums have a rough time of going. That being said, this one is still absurdly powerful because if you've built most likely what is a blue-red deck or a blue-white deck, you're in blue. Yeah, you're in blue-red for this. Like, you're not in any other combination that has plenty of draw power, that has a couple of crystals, that has Cathartic Reunion, Boon of the Wishgiver to get to the mana cost for this. Because once this goes off, it's game over. Drawing 5 cards is nuts, and clearing the way for just about it kills almost everything in the set. And when it can't, it's just arbitrarily too large. But yeah, this card is really insane. And just getting 5 life is also pretty good as well. I am biased. I've been playing this in Standard and Jeskai Fire's deck. Casting this for free is fun. You can't do that in this format, unfortunately. So, my bias aside, this is a 2 because that mana cost is hella hard to get to. Yeah. Moving on.
Kinnan Bonder Prodigy. It is a green and a blue legendary creature, human druid. It is a mythic 2/2. Whenever you tap a non-land permanent for mana, add 1 mana of any type that permanent produced. You can pay 5, a green, and a blue. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a non-human creature card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
I have played with this one in Limited. It's good. The 1/3 druid in green that taps for mana for creatures, real good with this. All the crystals, real good with this. The only downside is that he is fragile. He will eat a fire prophecy faster than you can blink. He will see deadweight on this thing faster than you can blink. Because if you untap with this thing, you're going to do something really stupid on your turn. I can guarantee that. If you do go late with Keenan here, the ability to look 5 deep and get basically any permanent creature is just absurd. And you're in the right colors to not have a lot of humans, so you should start hitting pretty frequently. Keenan's insane. He's absolutely insane. He just needs a little bit of help with other mana producers. So like I mentioned, the Druid and the Rocks go really nicely with Keenan here. Will be insane in Commander. We'll just go to that right now.
Keenan just needs kale.
Oh, God. Who loves orange soda? That being said, Keenan is very, very good. He's a solid 2 and has a really big build around just because he needs all that help to get going. But once he does, wow, good stuff. Moving on.
Ooh, he is angry.
A little angry.
He has an anger. Labyrinth Raptor, a black and a red. Wow, I am just...
Hey, it's all good.
Black and a red creature, nightmare dinosaur. He is a rare 2/2 with menace. Whenever a creature you control with menace becomes blocked, defending player sacrifices a creature blocking it. Pay black and a red. Creatures you control with menace get +1/+0 until the end of turn.
I like this thing. This thing is terrifying. If there's going to be a constructed deck built around this, it's going to be wild. There is a good amount of menace in black and red. The mutate that makes your opponent discard a card when it mutates that has and then you have Blood Curdle, which puts menace counters on your creatures. This thing is going to do some work, and that little Anthem effect on there is so cheap. This can just run away with the game by itself. If you're low to the ground, aggressive, couple of the mutates, the skittering one that makes your opponent sacrifice creatures is just even more crazy with this thing. Back it up with a couple of removal spells, a Fire Prophecy, a Blood Curdle, Deadweight. Easy 3-0, 7-0, whatever you're drafting in. This card is really scary. 2.5. Very, very good stuff. It's a 3. I'm going to give it a 3. This card's crazy.
No. He's doing this.
Your criteria for these things is just... I like it.
Lord Dracus. A 1 blue and a red creature, lizard beast. How could you not like a lizard beast? Uncommon 2/3. Whenever this creature mutates, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Mutate it for 2 blue-red hybrid things.
Yep. Yeah, this card is also very, very good. It is going to be predominantly found in blue-red spells decks, obviously. And of course, even if you're not heavy on the spells, this is a really good mutate base. And just a good mutate enabler because you're going to have a couple of, like if you're in this color combination, you've got some spells to go with it. So you might buy back, Fire Prophecy, Neutralize, what have you. You're going to get something back if you mutate this thing and your deck is built correctly. And that's the only real restriction on it, is that it just needs to have a little bit of help to go with it. It's very reminiscent of the 4/4 Beast that we saw earlier that brings back permanents from your graveyard when it mutates. So it's kind of the mirror image of that. But this is a really cool card. I've liked it in all my blue-red decks that I've drafted so far. This is a solid 2.5 for me. So I played in Standard too. It did some crazy things. Oh, baby.
Hey, look, it's your friend.
Oh, man.
She has a lot of text.
She has a lot of text.
Narset of the Ancient Way. She is 1 blue, red, white. She is a legendary planeswalker Narset. She is mythic with 4 loyalty. You can, excuse me, sir. You can +1 her. You gain 2 life. Add blue, red, or white. Spend this mana only to cast a non-creature spell.
That's important.
-2 her, draw a card, then you may discard a card. When you discard a non-land card this way, Narset of the Ancient Way deals damage equal to that card's converted mana cost to target creature or planeswalker. Also important.
Yep.
-6 her, you get an emblem with, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this emblem deals 2 damage to any target.
This card is insane. She does have a bit of a build-around component to it, just because that first possibility requires non-creature spells, obviously. But if you're in blue-red, blue-white, even red-white, I can see you getting away with playing her. That's going to do some stuff. You're going to be able to pull that off. And the -2 ability is also quite potent as well. It does suck that she can only do it twice before she's gone, but attaching card draw to removal is very, very powerful. And having played this, I pulled off the ultimate in a game of Standard, and it was insane. Obviously, if you can do it limited, your opponent is just not going to win if your deck is built correctly. She is not as good as Vivian. She is not a 4, unfortunately.
Got that right.
That being said, she is still very, very powerful, just because she has a little bit of a build-around component in a direction that, most limited games are not built around non-creature spells. I mean, your average limited deck is going to have 17 creatures. I mean, I've gone super low and done it, but it takes a lot of conviction and a bit of know-how about the set, how it works, to be able to pull off a 5-creature deck. Narset can be part of that deck if you can pull it off, and good for you. Very, very powerful card, though. She's a 2.5, but if she's in the right deck, like I mentioned, build around her, she's going to overperform every single time. She is wild. Very good stuff. Moving on.
Necropanther! Aw, look at him. He just wants to hug you.
He just wants to hug you with his mouth.
Chin scratches. A 1, a white, and a black. Creature, cat, nightmare, uncommon, 3/3. Whenever this creature mutates, return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. You can mutate it for 2 white-black hybrid thingies.
Yep.
2 and 2 white-black hybrids.
2 of those.
Yes.
2 Orzhov hybrids.
Yep. I like my words better.
Your words are better. They paint a better picture than mine do, that's for sure. Necropanther's insane.
Yeah, he is.
The only downside is that I look at this card as, I don't really want to be ever playing this in a black-white deck. I'm only playing this in a black-green deck. And just having the mutate ability go off and off and off, there's going to be a little bit of play in a really lean black-white aggressive deck that has a couple of non-human creatures that can mutate with this to buy back some of your cheaper threats. Just be able to do this consistently, though, is so powerful. And as long as your graveyard is mildly stocked, you're able to get there. But like I said, black-green is where this thing's going to be at its best, simply because, there's more things that you can do with your graveyard in this set in black and green. So that being said, Necropanther is still a really cool card. I love the flavor, I love the design. It's a solid 2. And like I said, once you slant towards that black-green deck, you're going to have a lot more flexibility with it. So, good stuff. Please hold on to your chair.
of death with his long tongue. 2, a white, a black, and a green. He is a legendary creature, Cat Nightmare Beast. He is a mythic 5/5 with Death Touch and Lifelink. Whenever this creature mutates, return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. You can mutate it for 4 green, white, hybrid, and 2 black.
Yeah. So I built a Brawl deck around Nethroi here, and it does some stupid things. I've played it in Limited as well. It does some stupid things. As long as you can mutate with it, that's where this thing absolutely goes berserk. The 10 power clause is going to bring back, 2 big things, one really big thing, a couple small things. As long as your graveyard is stocked, this is going to get so much power back. And I'm happy to attack with this thing just so it can die. Because if my deck is built in the way that I want it to be, I can bring this thing back. Get it back from my graveyard somehow and just go to town with it again. I honestly don't think that you would need to do it twice to win the game, but you never know. Nethroi is really insane, though. Truly, truly insane. At its best in black-green decks. Wouldn't really be much more about the white unless you can splash off of a land or a crystal or something like that. But Nethroi is still really, really powerful. Great for late-game grindy Abzan, black-green decks. Will love this card. Super, super solid 3 as long as your graveyard is stocked. And once it is, this thing skyrockets in value. It's insane. All right, keep holding on.
Oh my god! That is such a sad card, but it's so cute. Oh, I need to cuddle it. Oh, he just needs all the chin scratches. Offspring's Revenge 2. This is just uncontrollable. I'm sorry. It's so cute. 2, a red, a white, and a black enchantment rare. At the beginning of combat on your turn, exile target red, white, or black creature card from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 1/1. It gains haste until your next turn.
It makes babies of the cards that are already dead.
It's like...
This is a huge, huge build around, unfortunately. And I want to be able to guarantee that the creature I'm getting back has some value attached to it. There's just a lot that has to go around this card to be effective. This is another one of those wild enchantments that Commander is just going to gobble up and do something really stupid with. The fact that you're exiling the creatures as well is a bit of a downside in case you have anything called the Death Dweller or any other animation effects. Bit of a downside. But as long as that creature you're getting back has some kind of value to it, whether it's like Death Touch or anything like that, that's pretty solid here. And they make for decent blockers too. That being said, this is a big, big build around me, and I don't know if I would want to commit to this card. Adorable, but I can't commit. Moving on.
Parcel Beast. He's neat.
No, not a ah. He's got a stick. He's playing fetch. He literally plays fetch.
Oh goodness. Okay, that's cute. I couldn't see it. I was distracted by the smoky wispy things. In my defense.
That's fair.
2, a green and a blue creature elemental beast, uncommon, 2/4. You can pay 1 and tap it to look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you don't put the card onto the battlefield, put it into your hand.
And it mutates for a green and a blue.
Yep, that. Oops.
Yeah, and it literally fetches. This card is also incredibly insane. A 2-mana it mutates to get a 2/4 body is just, it's ridiculous. And to consistently leave this back on defense, activate this ability every instep is just drawing you cards consistently. This thing is so powerful at doing that. This goes really nicely in that Teamer Mutate deck that I've built that Patrick Diekman posted on Twitter, and does some really crazy things in that deck too. And it does exactly the same thing in Limited. You will not be disappointed with this card at all. This is a solid 3. It does so much. Go fetch. Good boy. Good girl.
Primal Empathy. 1, a green and a blue enchantment, uncommon. At the beginning of your upkeep, draw a card if you control a creature with the greatest power among creatures. If you control a creature with the greatest power among creatures on the battlefield. Otherwise, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control.
This card is a trap. Because it looks good. And granted, it is good when you can get it to go off, but at that point, you have sprung the trap by drafting this thing. So basically, what you're committing to is maybe you played something on turn 2. If you did, great. You have to then play this on turn 3, and it's doing nothing. If your opponent kills your creature on their turn, this is now doing nothing again, and you have to play something on your 4th turn and wait for it to get back around to you for this to hopefully do something. And if in the meantime your opponent is playing bigger things than you, you're not drawing cards, which is what this thing wants to be doing. The +1/+1 counters are good, no doubt about that. But if you're not getting any value off on this, if you're not the biggest thing on the board, or if you're trying to get to the biggest thing on the board, you are playing from behind constantly with this card. This is a huge, huge trap. That being said, if you get to go off, it's insane. It's really, really powerful. But again, massive, massive trap. I would stay away from this one at all costs.
I just want the big kitty.
That's cool. Pet the big kitty. That's cool. Yeah. But yeah, big, big trap. Play at your own risk. Be prepared to play from behind and try to catch back up as fast as you can. You're in green, you're in blue. You've got the ways to do it, but you've got to do it and fast. Yeah, big build around me card. And then once it's there, solid 2. All right.
No. Quartzwood Crasher. A 2 red, and a green creature dinosaur beast. He is a rare 6/6 with trample. Whenever one or more creatures you control with trample deal combat damage to a player, create an XX green dinosaur beast creature token with trample, where X is the amount of damage those creatures dealt to that player.
This is a really weird card. This is so complex for a big giant beater, but it's amazing because it's totaling up all of the trample damage that you dealt to the player. So you could get a really big freaking dinosaur off this thing, and that's really cool. The weirdest part about this card to me, and I don't know why it bugs me, is the fact that it's double red. No idea why. It just kind of irks me. Like, this feels like it should be double green then red. But whatever. This card is still just wildly powerful, and it's at the right point on the curve too to bring down something like this, that you had the chance to fix your mana, play some other creatures, so that way you can play this, maybe beat through with some trample threats, and already make dinosaurs. This card is really, really powerful. Very, very cool design. Solid 3. Great in any aggressive, or not even like a mid-range green base deck. This thing is easily splashable if you're in the right green build. Cool stuff. Everybody hold on.
He has a big roar.
And he's got friends.
He does. They look like llamas.
They look like llamas.
Or alpacas. Regal Leosaur. A red and a white creature, dinosaur, cat, uncommon, 2/2. Whenever this creature mutates, other creatures you control get +2/+1 until end of turn, and you can mutate it for 1 and 2 red-white hybrid thingies.
So this is a really cool card. The go wide Boros red white aggro deck is a real thing. You know, there's plenty of cycling in that deck, like Flourishing Fox, the squirrel that flies, the Nightmare Squirrel. There's a surprising number of non-human creatures to go in a deck like this that you can mutate onto. And if you can get this thing off one time, that's a big damage bonus. Because it's also checking itself. Because if you play this onto your 2-drop, this is automatically a 4/3 that is beating down automatically. Or bigger if you put it on something slightly larger. Yeah, this is a really wild card. I like this more in a green-red deck that's splashing into white, possibly. More of a Naya build, green-red-white. But this is just good stuff. If you're in an aggressive low-to-the-ground deck that can touch one of these colors consistently, you're in good shape. Not my slice of cake when it comes to limited, but still very powerful indeed. Solid 2.5, as long as you can go wide and will take advantage of that Anthem effect. Good stuff. Next up,
Riel the Everwise.
So wise.
So wise.
Respect your elbows, everybody.
1 blue and a red legendary creature human wizard. I automatically love her more. A mythic 0/3, Riel the Everwise gets +1/+0 for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. Whenever you discard 1 or more cards for the first time each turn, draw that many cards.
This is dangerous. She is insanely powerful. All of the blue-red spells, like this is like, if there's ever a signpost for what you want to do in blue-red, Riel is it. Draft all your instants, all your sorceries, get her really, really big, and then sneak her through somehow. Pretty simple. It's also pretty great that cycling being a huge mechanic in this set goes perfectly with her discard ability, because that lets you draw that many cards along with your cycle draw as well. She's going to churn through your deck super, super fast. The only downside is her 3 toughness. But the value that she's going to generate for you over the course of a game is going to be so powerful that I think in a good blue-red deck that's built properly, that has a lot of the bounce spells, that has the tap-down effects, you might get to a point where it's just one swing from Riel and they're just dead. Because you've locked down all their stuff, you've out-tempoed and countered everything they've got, killed everything that they can, fire prophecies, capture spheres, neutralizes. She's really powerful. Big build-around component, but really powerful. Solid 3. Solid 3. Boom!
That's some Game of Thrones stuff there. Ruinous Ultimatum. 2 red, 3 white, 2 black, sorcery, rare, destroy all non-land permanents your opponents control.
Yikes.
Game of Thrones.
Yep, so I've cast this in Standard out of my 4 colors Fire of Invention deck, Fae of Wishes. It's pretty sweet when this goes off. That being said, this is another one of those ultimatums like the Inspired Ultimatum that is a pain to get off because of that mana cost. No green mana, and you're expecting to survive long enough to get this to fire. If you resolve this, you are winning the game handily, thankfully. But you're just really in the wrong colors to get to a point where, well, to get to this reliably, fixing for this is going to be really rough. You're going to be relying on Evolving Wilds, the crystals, all the tap lands you can get your hands on. You can do it, but you're going to jump through a lot of hoops. But if you are playing what I would hope would look like some kind of black-red or black-white control deck with lots of removal, lots of bulky creatures that can just hold down the board and just let you churn through your deck. You're playing Cathartic Reunions to discard and draw, to find lands you need to cast this. It's going to work, but you're going to pay a price for building your deck in such a way to really warp around this card that I'm not entirely sure that it's worth it. So, not super high on this one, as powerful as it is. This one just doesn't really cut it for me. This is a 1.5, unfortunately. Just that casting cost absolutely kills this card for me. Next up, we've got
Lightning Kitty!
I hate this card.
Savai Thundermane.
Thunder.
A red and a white creature elemental cat, uncommon. He is a 3/2. Whenever you cycle a card, you may pay 2. When you do, Savai Thundermane deals 2 damage to target creature and you gain 2 life.
When I close my eyes, I see this card in my nightmares. I've only played against one cycling deck in Limited so far. This was at the core of it, and it killed me. It was... this guy's deck shifted through probably... He had 6 cards left in his library when he finally killed me. Like, just every single turn. Cycle, pay 2, shock. Pay 2, shock. It was terrifying. Big build-around card here, unfortunately, because you've got to have plenty of cycling to go with it. You don't be attacking with this card very often unless you can back it up by combat tricks, because if you don't, that 2 toughness is going to hurt it a lot. That being said, if you are in the red-white cycling deck, maybe with some blue cards in there as well, you've probably got the Draenith Trapper guy that can tap the things as you cycle. They're going to have a hard time attacking into you. And if you've got any of the burn spells, Fire Prophecy, any of the white spells that allow you to, the Divine Arrow to keep the board under control, this thing will go the distance. So big build around me, but very powerful card when it goes off. 2.5.
So I'm going to name him Sparky.
Sparky. You can call it whatever he wants.
Oh, Skull Prophet. That looks like the Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz if you don't look too hard.
But if you do look too hard?
Then definitely not. A black and a green creature, human druid. He is an uncommon 3/1. You can tap him to add black or green, or you can tap him to put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard.
Yep, so this is, again, playing into the black-green graveyard deck. This is a really powerful card for that. And the fact that it's fixing your mana as well is also just absolutely crazy. This is going to go great with like Nethroi decks, Brokos, just good acceleration to just get to the higher end of your curve where a lot of your big payoff cards exist. And once you've gotten to a point where he's probably been outclassed on the battlefield, because 3/1s are super fragile. He's not an attacker unless the board is just completely clear. Once you've gotten to a point where you do have some graveyard shenanigans ready to go in your hand, you can start tapping him to start using those cards to pull those creatures back to your hand, back into play, power up Nethroi. This is a really, really cool card. 2.5 for me. Very cool stuff.
It's a flying kitty thingy with stuff. Skycat Sovereign. My mind is just blown on this one. I can't comprehend it. It is a white and a blue creature elemental cat. He is a rare 1/1 with flying. Skycat Sovereign gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with flying. You can pay 2, a white and a blue, create a 1/1 white catbird creature token with flying.
This card is wild. So obviously blue-white is always the flyers deck. Like if you draft blue-white, you probably have a bunch of flyers. And there's a lot of pretty solid ones in here. A lot of the big birds in blue will carry you through games with their hexproof counters, their mutate abilities to draw cards. And this is a pretty solid one. And you're already in blue, so you've got some bounce, you've got some counter spells, you might have some of the white removal as well, like Divine Arrow, to let this thing just, you can pass the turn with impunity, hold your mana up, respond if you have to, and if you don't have to, make a catbird. Make a catbird. Make a catbird. And it's not even a bad top deck late in the game either, because you can just play it, make a catbird. Make a catbird. Make a catbird. Cat dog. This card's really powerful. This is a solid 2.5, probably closer to a 3 when you're in that super sweet blue-white flyer deck. Very, very good card. Oh, I love this card. He's just smiling at you. He's posing for a picture.
Slither Wisp, a blue and 2 black creature, elemental nightmare. He is a rare 3/2 with flash. Whenever you cast another spell that has flash, you draw a card and each opponent loses 1 life.
Yeah, this guy, this thing, has already proven itself in standard for me with blue-black or our Dimir flash decks. And blue-black kind of being in this flash archetype for limited just gives this thing all kinds of power. Nightbonder, the capture spheres, there's the 4/2 black creature that kills a creature that was dealt damage this turn with flash. There's a lot of cool things that you can do with this card in limited, and just the extra card draw is really, really powerful as well. It's got decent stats too that it can block in a pinch, but I just want to play this with as many flash cards as I can, and then out to my opponents, kill their stuff, bounce their stuff, and just go to town. This is a really powerful card here. Solid 2.5 for me. Good stuff. Holy... Oh, it's funny because you're snapping.
Snapdax!
Snapdax.
Apex of the Hunt.
Dun, 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 dun.
1, a red, a white, and a black. Legendary creature, Dinosaur Cat Nightmare. He is a mythic 3/5 with double strike. Whenever this creature mutates, it deals 4 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls, and you gain 4 life. It mutates for 2, a black and a red hybrid thingy, and 2 white.
Yep. So Snapdex, unfortunately, is on the lower end of the mythic mutators. He's still very powerful. Basically that Fling Tongue Kavu ability with the life gain attached to it is incredibly powerful. Being a double striker, especially as cheap as he is, I like the fact that he can come down and then you mutate things onto it. The double white in its mutate cost really hurts it because you don't really associate white with mutate cards in this format. There's a couple, but nothing that's really going to, light the world on fire for you. So Snapdex is in kind of a weird place. I like it in more of like you've got to have some green in this deck somewhere, and the ability to fix your mana to really make this thing go off. So as powerful as this card is, it's good. She's going to hate me for saying this. It's not that great in Limited because it is so hard to utilize. To mutate onto, get the full effect from it. There's just not a lot of power to go along with this thing, unfortunately. Sorry. Still very powerful. Power alone gets you far. A 3/5 double striker is still very good. Still very good.
Luckily, there are other formats.
There are other formats to put this thing in. Lord help us. She's already built the commander deck. So Snapdex is really, really powerful, but just there's a lot of hoops to jump through to make this thing work in Limited. Solid 2, but it just the colors that this thing is in just really hurt it to mutate efficiently.
He just needs to work on his roar a little bit more.
Okay, that's all you gotta do. Maybe it should sing a song
of creation.
Yeah, see what I did there? You get it.
Song of Creation. A 1, a green, a blue, and a red. Enchantment. Rare. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. Whenever you cast a spell, draw 2 cards. At the beginning of your end step, discard your hand.
This is a massive build around. Again, these are more of these commander enchantments. We'll see a couple more for the rest of the color combinations. The ability to play additional lands is quite powerful. Casting a spell. So basically, let's do this. I play this on turn 4.
Mm-hmm.
I go to my end step. I discard my hand. Maybe I'm in blue-red. Maybe I've got some ways to recur some of those things out of my graveyard. But then I go to my next turn, and I draw a card. I have 1 card in my hand. I really hope it's a spell that I can cast, because if it's not, I have to discard it. If it's a land, I can play it. But other than that, you've done nothing. So much like the blue-green enchantment that draws you cards or put +1/+1 counters on things, this is a really big trap. So this is probably going to table at the draft multiple times, or if you're in one of the color combinations that touches this, or if you're in all 3 for Teamer and you open this late into pack 2 or pack 3, you're going to lose your mind because it's going to be the best card in your deck most likely. But you've got to build around this thing for it to be efficient. And hopefully your opponent cannot capitalize on the fact that you have no cards in your hand. Big problem. Big build around me card. And I have not seen this go off in Limited just yet, so I really have no context on this one. This has to be powerful. It's got to be powerful. If you've got extra draw ability in your deck, you're probably in a good spot, but big build around. We'll give it a 2.
Beautiful art.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
I just realized that there's a lady in it.
Yep. Here we go.
Oh, look, it's so little. Sprite Dragon.
Size of a pixie, range of a hellkite.
Yay!
Rawr.
Blue and a red creature, fairy dragon, uncommon, 1/1 with flying and haste. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Sprite Dragon, so he turns into a big dragon.
He gets big. Yes.
He
So
grows
she
up.
hit it right on the head. Has to be in a blue-red spells deck to be at its best. It's actually not a bad mutate target. I've put Migratory Greathorn on this thing already, and that's pretty cool. That it goes and gets me a land and gets bigger than and when you cast on creature spells. So it does some cool things in some wacky teamer builds. Beyond that, this card needs to be in a home with a lot of non-creature spells to be at its most efficient. Baseline stats, 1/1 haste flyers are serviceable at best. But like I said, you've got to have things to be done with your spells. So you're playing things like Fire Prophecy, like Neutralize, the blue and the red cycling enchantments that allow you to phase things out or turn the red one into a 5/4. There's a lot of cool things you can do with this card, so it's got a heavy build-around component, but once it's in your deck and you've got it built correctly, this is an incredibly powerful card here. Solid 2.5. Very hard to slow down once it gets going.
Oh.
It's Broncos. He's hanging out in the middle.
Oh.
He's just chilling out.
It looks like a boneyard thingy. I got sad.
Well, they're like trees and stuff.
Titan's Nest. 1 black, green, and a blue enchantment. Rare. Yes.
Yep.
At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard, exile a card from your graveyard, add a colorless.
Yep.
Spend this mana only to cast a colored spell without X in its mana cost.
Again, more of these wacky commander enchantments. This one I actually can get behind for limited because you have the ability to put it into your graveyard. As the game goes later, as things have died, maybe you're drawn a really big spell and you want a double spell on a single turn, cast 2 spells in the same go, maybe a big mutate creature onto something smaller. You can remove those cards from your graveyard. If you're playing things like Excavation Mole, it speeds up the process even faster. So there are some cool things you can do to ramp into them, and the fact that you're not sacrificing this to really get anything else off of it is pretty powerful. That being said, this just doesn't do anything the turn that you play it. And if you've got the 4 mana of the different colors all on your 4th turn, great. But if you don't, this is going to rot in your hand for a while, and that can be a problem. That could have been another creature, a removal spell, what have you. So cards like this have a big build-around component just because there's a lot of cool things you can do with it, but there's not enough power really to go along with it. Commander cards, again, big build-around me one, but I'm going to give this one like a 1.5 if you even go for it. So, there you go. Moving on.
Trumpeting Gnar. A 1 and green and a blue creature beast, uncommon 3/3. Whenever this creature mutates, create a 3/3 green beast creature token. It mutates for 3 and 2 green-blue hybrid thingies.
Yep. So this is probably one of the wildest examples of what happens when you trick somebody with mutate cost. The fact that this thing costs 3 mana or 5 mana to mutate. So the question is, do I mutate with this or mutate on this? Mutate on this, for sure. There is no reason why you should ever be casting this thing for its mutate costs. You'll look foolish. Plain and simple. That being said, card's pretty damn good. To consistently get extra bodies from your mutates, pretty solid, powerful card, and being a 3 mana for 3/3, solid stats as well. It's a solid 2. What kind of sound do you think this thing makes?
Meh.
I was gonna go with murder. Murder.
Nah, it's just a meh.
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 Meh. How about this thing?
Look at him, he's so cute.
Thunder!
No.
Thunder!
No. I don't know, maybe. Dang it. Vidrock, Apex of
Thunder!
I knew it was coming. I was trying to avoid that. A blue, a red, and a white legendary creature, elemental dinosaur kitty cat. He is a mythic 3/3 with flying and first strike. Whenever this creature mutates. So see, wait, he has first strike, which means that he is not thunder, he is lightning.
Whatever.
Lightning and then thunder. He has anyway. Whenever this creature mutates, you may cast target non-creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. This thing mutates for 1, a white and a blue hybrid thingy, and 2 red.
Yeah. So, much like Snapdax, this guy has the problem of needing a ton to go right to work with him. I can defend this thing, and unlike Snapdax, this thing has blue in it. The rest of them all have green in them. But because this thing has blue in it, you have card draw. You've got the ability to cast Boon of the Wishgiver. You have Cathartic Reunion to shift through your deck very quickly and find the lands you need to cast Vidrock here. The only downside is that you've got to have things in your graveyard to cast with him. The cool thing is that unlike other cards that cast spells out of your graveyard, those that exile them, like Snapcaster Mage, this doesn't do that. So you can have a Fire Prophecy in your graveyard and just hit that over and over and over and over and over and over. I really like Verdrock. I built a Brawl deck with him. It's
Apex of Lightning.
Thunder!
Lightning.
Sure. So yeah, the only downside is you have to have spells to go with this to make this be powerful. That being said, this is a really cheap, aggressive threat that is going to rip through most things your opponent is playing. It's a really powerful 2. It's a very powerful 2, 2.5, but it is a big, big build around. Most of the other ones don't have that restriction, but Snapdex and Vidrock just have a lot holding them back from being as powerful as they are. That being said, I can see this thing obviously going into, like, older formats like Standard, where you can actually push this thing to the max and really build a deck around it. I will try and draft this in Limited and play it in Sealed. It would be bad most likely, but I will try my darndest to do it.
He's so sassy.
Because I love Thunder.
Lightning. He's so sassy.
So sassy. Alright, here we go.
Whirlwind of Thought. 1, a blue, a red, and a white enchantment rare. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, draw a card.
This one I can get behind. Unlike all the rest of these tricolor enchantments, this is the one that can actually get you there. Because again, like I mentioned with Vidrock, you're in blue and red. You have card draw. You've got filtering to go and find the cards that you need to cast this. And then once this is online, I just want to draw 2 or 3 cards off of it before I feel like I've gotten my investment back from it. And beyond that, I'm going crazy with it. So if I'm casting any number of counter spells, draw spells, bounce spells, what have you, I'm happy. This card is very, very powerful. It is a very, very big build-around component, just like all the other tricolor enchantments. So at that, it gets a 2, but when it's going off, really, really powerful in any predominantly going to be blue-red spell-based control deck. Good stuff.
Makes me think of Pocahontas.
Yeah. Paint with all the colors of those winds.
Yep. I thought that said Winona for a second.
She does look like a young Winona Ryder, though.
Winona, Joiner of Forces. 2, a red and a white legendary creature, human warrior, mythic 4/4. Whenever a non-human creature you control attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may put a human creature card from among them onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. It gains indestructible until end of turn. Put the rest of the cards on the bottom of your library in a random order.
This digs deep. 6 cards is a lot. By the time that you've cast this, you've drawn 7, about 11 cards, most likely, somewhere in that range. So you're digging through about 33% of your deck to find another human. So you're going to find it, I would think. And the only unfortunate part is that you're going to get those cards put back on the bottom of your library, but you're going to sift back around it. And Winona is so big on the power and the toughness front that she's going to survive combat for a good number of turns, even if you don't. Just attack with her, and because you have to look, you have to put that trigger on the second, dig 6 deep. That's the only downside here. But just to do so much, and just as long as you build your deck around here. So again, she's got that really heavy build around component that all these mythics have had. There's a lot going on that's very, very powerful with her. So she is one of the few red-white cards that I would just snap up and just force my deck around it. I wouldn't look back after her after I built this thing. So very, very powerful card here. Solid 2. Just because there's a lot that can go wrong in 6 cards to not get those cards back at some point. Kudos to Wizards, actually, because this is one of the few examples that I can think of. There's actually 2 cards in this set that demonstrate people with disabilities. Because Winona is missing her right arm. She's in the black card that shows her putting a Band-Aid on her little buddy, and it shows off that they're both kind of disabled. Yeah. And I just want to say I really like the fact that there's like this trope in science fiction to give someone who has been disabled a very functional prosthetic arm of some kind or a limb. And I really like that they didn't do that here. I like that they're just showing off just how badass she is without that. Cool. way to represent. Very, very powerful card here. Solid 2, 2.5. Wildly powerful card here.
Ooh, pretty.
Yeah.
Zenith Flare. 2, a red and white instant uncommon. Zenith Flare deals X damage to any target, and you gain X life, where X is the number of cards with the cycling ability in your graveyard.
Any target. You will die to this card. I have died to this card in Limited. I have died to this card in Standard now. This is an extremely powerful card here. The fact that you cannot stop cycling. Or maybe you just naturally put the cards in your graveyard from just casting them and they just end up there regardless. This will kill things. This is mostly going to be pointed at players' faces. Because the one thing that White-Red has had just habitually over several years of Magic is you can be an aggressive deck, but if you can't close, if you get stonewalled out and your little creatures aren't getting there anymore, which a lot of the cycling creatures are very, very small. They're 2-drops that have 1 to 2 toughness. They're not going to get there. This is your ace in the hole. So if you've got them to 6 and you just can't get past Bracos or Nethroi or Archipelagor, you draw this, they're dead. This is a really, really powerful card, and it gains you life, too. So, very powerful card here. Must be built around to be as efficient as possible. Don't just put this in a deck that has a couple of cycling cards. This is first pick in draft and just go ham on the cycling cards. Take every cycling card that you can, even the ones you can't cast. Solid 3, but it's got to be in the cycling deck. Heavy cycling. Moving on.
Why are we back at A's?
Because these are the hybrid cards now.
Oh.
This is a long one.
Oh. Alert Heed Bonder. 1 and 2 of the green-white hybrid thingies.
Yep.
Oh, I'm going to be saying that a lot. Creature, human, scout, uncommon, 2/4 with vigilance. At the beginning of your end step, you gain 1 life for each creature you control with vigilance.
So green-white is the vigilance deck. Cool. This is going to at least gain you 1 life. Cool. There's the white enchantment with flash that lets you creatures deal power equal to their toughness instead. Cool. The white mentor gives vigilance counters to non-creature creatures you control. Cool. This card just isn't exciting, unfortunately. It just doesn't do a whole lot. It's a defender at best. Like, it's a 2. Not exciting at all, really, unfortunately. Moving on.
She's pretty.
This card, however.
And so is her little wolf thingy. Cunning Nightbonder. 2 blue-black hybrid thingies. Creature, human, rogue, uncommon, 2/2 with flash. Spells with flash you cast cost 1 less to cast and can't be countered.
Yeah, so this is already showing up in the blue-black. Actually, any flash deck in Center is playing her already. She's very, very powerful there. Equally as good in the limited decks. She's just a good, solid blocker. You don't have to have a bunch of flash threats to go along with her to make that ability really be worth it. So if I'm in a black deck or a blue deck, I'm happy to play a couple of copies of I've got them. Flash in, block. If I get a discount on something else, cool. Doesn't have to happen though. This is a really good card here. Solid 2 here for me. And then there's this
Aww. What is it holding?
thing.
Is it a little doll?
I think it's holding a little doll of something, or their bones.
It's a doll.
Anyway.
It's a doll.
Sure.
Fiend Artisan. 2 black and green hybrid thingies. Creature, nightmare, mythic, 1/1. Fiend Artisan gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard. It's probably bones. You can pay X and a black-green hybrid thingy, tap it, sacrifice another creature, search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library, activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery.
Nicely done.
Thanks.
So this is another of the Birthing Pod creature variants. We've seen this on Vanifar. We've seen this on Birthing Pod itself. The Wizards keeps trying to get this mechanic correct, and I think this is the best way to do it. Other than Vanifar, you can't put it on an artifact like Birthing Pod was. Anyway, Fiend Artisan is really powerful. To get bigger as the game goes longer, to come down as a 2-mana 6/6 in some cases is really powerful. And as long as you've got some really good creatures to go and get with the sacrifice ability, if you've got some ones that have been locked down by like a pacifism or a capture sphere, or just any number of effects that the creature's been outclassed, hell, a token is fine, and have the requisite mana to sink into it, you can do a lot with this creature. And if you can recur them with your graveyard mechanics like you've got in the black-green deck, there's a lot of power from Fiend Artisan here. This is a solid 3 and is going to be a really good card in just about every format it makes an impact in. Commander, Standard, probably even Modern too. Good card.
You look unamused.
I hate this card.
Gyruda, Doom of Depths. 4 and 2 blue-black hybrid thingies. Legendary creature, Demon Kraken. A rare 6/6. Oh, he's a companion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that explains it. Your starting deck contains only cards with even converted mana costs. When Gyruda enters the battlefield, each player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard. Put a creature card with an even converted mana cost from among those cards onto the battlefield under your control.
I will say this right now, and so I don't have to say it again. Companion is broken and could potentially ruin the game.
Can I also say something?
Sure.
Release the Kraken! Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Had to.
Yeah. Companion is broken. It adds an 8th card to your hand. It's always the best card in your deck, most likely, and Gyruda is the biggest offender next to one of the ones we'll get to here in a little bit. This card is a problem in every format it touches. That being said, this card is powerful as hell. I lost to this out of a 5-color draft deck that brought this thing back 3 times. I hate this card, but it's really, really powerful. Gyruda, the even CMC thing is a bummer. Who cares? The power level of this card to get back so many powerful, potent threats is just unreal. You'll have a hard time losing with this thing limited. This is as close to a 4 as you can get, and the only reason I'm not going to give it a 4 is I hate it, and the even CMC clause. 3.5, Gyruda is absurd.
No! It's a giant one and there's little ones and they're all like, hi. Gigantha, the Wellspring. 4 and a red-green hybrid thingy. Legendary creature, Elemental Elk. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
He's a rare.
He's a rare.
I almost said mythic.
Might as well be.
He's a rare 5/5 companion. No card in your starting deck has more than one of the same mana symbol in its mana cost. You can tap it to add white, blue, black, red, and green. This mana can't be spent to pay generic mana costs.
And that is the biggest downside to this card. Not being able to hit converted generic mana costs. So like the 4 in this thing, it can't pay for those. That is the biggest downside with this card because I tried this one in Limited, and it doesn't do what you want it to do. It'll pay for, like, I played it in a Teamer deck, and I was able to pay a couple of times with that extra mana, but I always had floating mana left over. I had to consistently keep tapping my lands, and so what I basically eventually had was I put it into my main deck. I didn't play it as my companion anymore. I was able to build my deck better because I could add the cards back that I was limiting myself from by playing Gigantha as my companion. My deck got better. The acceleration off of it helped a little bit, and it was still a giant 5/5 beater. It's a powerful card here, but the companion ability really limits itself, and not being able to help the generic mana cost hurts it even more. It's just not that good. It's a 2. It's fine. It's not broken for companion, but moving on. It's a solid 2. Green mid-range decks, go crazy.
It's an owl.
Yep.
Jubilant Skybonder. 1 and 2 white-blue hybrid thingies. Creature, human wizard, uncommon, 2/2 with flying. Creatures you control with flying have spells your opponents cast that target this creature cost 2 more to cast.
This card is great. Flat out, this is a solid 3. I love taxation effects on your opponent's removal. Flyers are always great. This is going to be fantastic. I would like to play this, obviously in a blue-white flyer deck, but if I can play it in blue-red or whatever I'm going to play it in, this card's going to be great. As I mentioned earlier, the white-red legendary, whose name I'm blanking on, who's missing an arm. when she attacks you.
Winota?
Yeah, Winota, yeah. This is the other card that references people with disabilities.
Oh.
Because she can't walk.
Oh.
She was born unable to walk. Through the Eluda, she was able to fly.
Aw.
Like, this is some legit inspirational flavor text here. I love this. This card is a home run on all points. And for that, I'm going to give it a 4. It's just a 3, but I'm going to give it a 4 because of just how cool this card is. This is a great, great card.
Wow.
Yeah.
You have a thing about blue.
I love blue. Have you seen my commander decks?
Yep. Oh my god, it's so good. Oh my god. Kahira. Oh, even its name is... Whew. Oh my god.
This is Kahira, the Orphan Guard. 1 green-white hybrid, legendary creature, cat beast, at rare, 3/2, companion. Each creature card in your starting deck is a cat, elemental, nightmare, dinosaur, or beast card, has vigilance, and each other creature you control that's a cat, elemental, nightmare, dinosaur, or beast gets +1/+1 and has vigilance. Is this card good?
Yeah.
This card is actually really good. This is one of the surprisingly easier companions to build around, simply because it hits across the board. This can play in black-white, in black-green, in green-white, in green-black. You'd be stretched a little bit, but I can guarantee you, with that many creature types that can hit, this card is real. This is a very, very cool card. This is not a broken companion by any stretch. It is a cool, flavorful one. Look at all the little friends in the art.
I know, they're orphans.
It's just, this is adorable. This is freaking adorable is what this is. Yeah, Kahira is a solid 3. This makes your board just wild. And this actually makes that the 2/4 that gains you life for every creature with vigilance.
3.5.
3.5. Okay.
That's for reading my card.
Sorry. Next up.
He's a goober. Karuga the...
This is no goober. This thing is real.
Karuga the Macro Sage. 3 and 2 green-blue hybrid thingies. Legendary creature dinosaur hippo. He's a goober. He is a rare 5/4 companion. Your starting deck contains only cards with converted mana cost 3 or greater and land cards. When Karuga the Macro Sage enters the battlefield, draw a card for each other permanent you control with converted mana cost 3 or greater.
Yeah. So much like Kahira, Karuga is doable. I tried it, and it worked. You can easily get away by playing 3 CMCs in your deck and nothing but. Because when you resolve Karuga, you will draw 3, 4, 5 cards. This is an insanely powerful creature. And the fact that you're in the right colors for it, to be playing the ramp spells that you need to play the draw effects that you need to, you will catch back up as soon as you start playing spells. I mean, it's a relatively slow format, too. There's only really one aggressive deck in that red-white cycler deck, and that takes a couple turns to get going anyway. So when you start playing threats, you can play this easily. On your turn 5, have a 3 and a 4 up in play, draw 2 cards. You're in great shape to win a game. Karuga is the real deal. Solid 3.5. Very powerful card.
Aww.
There's a stupid thing.
He is not stupid. Look at his little baby.
That's fine.
He
This
just
card
called
is...
stupid in front of his baby. Lurus of the Dream Den. I think I pronounced that right.
Mm-hmm.
1 and 2 white, black hybrid things. Legendary creature, cat nightmare, rare, 3/2, companion. Each permanent card in your starting deck has converted mana cost 2 or less. Lifelink. Oh, he is 3/2 with lifelink. Sorry, didn't do that part. During each of your turns, you may cast 1 permanent spell with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard.
So, Lurus's companion ability is not feasible and limited. It cannot be done. There's just no way to get enough things that are cheap enough, permanent-wise, to pull this off, realistically. I just don't think it can be done unless you are in the most super focused cycling deck and then have a bunch of the more expensive cycling non-creature spells in your deck. I just wouldn't try it. The ability to recur things during each of your turns, very, very powerful as well, and makes this the other most problematic companion for other formats. This thing is also quite detrimental to the game's the health of the formats in general. That being said, Ludicrous is pretty insane. It's a solid 2.5 in the right deck. And like I said, if you can get it in that cycling deck that can just play all these expensive cyclers that cost 1 mana to cycle, it's not going to matter because your Draenith Stinger, your Draenith Healers, your 3-1 that makes human tokens, it's going to go pretty crazy. So yeah, Ludicrous is insane, but yeah, 2.5.
Big kitty's teaching little kitty to be fierce.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, my heart.
R.I.P. Lutri.
Lutri the Spell Chaser. I love you. 1 and 2 blue-red hybrid thingies. Legendary creature, elemental otter, rare. 3/2 with flash. Companion. Each non-land card in your starting deck has a different name. When Lutri the Spell Chaser enters the battlefield, if you cast it, copy target instant or sorcery spell you control. You may choose a new target for this copy.
Yeah, so we're not going to talk about how this was banned in Commander already. It's beside the point. This card is really powerful in a blue-red or just blue-based spell matters deck. This is going to come in at a clutch moment in the game to copy the tap to creature spell, to copy a Fire Prophecy. Just any number of cool tricks that this thing can do is just going to give you so much benefit from it. That being said, much like the other companions, there's a pretty hefty build-around component here. You cannot have multiple cards with the same name, and in a Spells Matters deck, you will often find that you want to have multiple of the same effects. So there is a downside to playing Lutri. That being said, I think it is plausible. I think it is completely feasible to have enough creatures to kind of offset this, have things like Lord Dracus to buy back those spells. So you can do it, just kind of keep it in mind that your deck's got to be really, really focused, and you're probably going to have a couple of cards that are not usually worth playing in a deck to make this thing work. Maybe, not sure. But yeah, Lutri's really powerful here. Really, really like it. 2.5, big build-around component though, of course. Oh, baby. Oh, baby.
Obosh?
Obosh.
Obosh, the Prey Piercer. 3 and 2 black, 2 red hybrid thingy majiggers. Legendary creature, Hellion Hellion Horror. He is a rare 3/5. Companion, your starting deck contains only cards with odd converted mana cost and land cards. If a source you control with an odd converted mana cost would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead.
Yeah. So again, the companion cost is real. I've seen this one pulled off though. I've played this just in my starting 40 for drafts that I've done before, and it pulls its weight. By itself, it's bashing in for 6 damage or more. So you can do a lot with Obosh here, and so I like it. If you can build around it for the companion, awesome. If not, it's perfectly suitable in your starting 40. You're going to have creatures on your curve at all points, and this will do a lot of damage over the course of the game. So Obosh here, solid 3 for me. Very, very powerful card indeed.
Proud Wild Bonder. 2 and 2 red-green hybrid thingies. Creature, human, warrior, uncommon, 4/3 with trample. Creatures you control with trample you may have this creature assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked.
Yeah, this card is also quite insane. Played this one as well. Doesn't need a lot of trample creatures to really make this thing go crazy. But if you are in a heavy trample deck, if you've got the green mentor that can give your non-human creatures trample tokens, this thing can get really out of control very quickly and could just kill your opponent in one shot because you're no longer assigning combat damage to the creatures, you're just straight through. Really powerful stuff here. This is a solid 3 for me. Very cool card.
Sonorous Hellbonder. He's got a Wolfers. 1 and 2 black-red hybrid things. Creature, human, warrior, uncommon, 2/2 with menace. Each creature you control with menace can't be blocked except by 3 or more creatures.
Yeah, so it goes up from 2 to 3, making menace all the more potent. So much like the Wild Bonder, you could easily play this thing, maybe like mid to late game with a number of Menace creatures already in play, the Menace Mentor gives out the tokens and all that, or the counters and whatnot. Playing Blood Curdle will give your Menace creatures as well. This could kill somebody in one shot, especially if you're very aggressive in a black-red deck. Really, really powerful stuff here. I like this card a lot as well. Haven't seen it played just yet, but I do expect to see it, as the more that I draft this one. Black-red, not a really prominent archetype right now that I've seen, so I'm going to give this one a 2, but could easily see this thing going up a couple slots.
And if we're talking Commander, I know the perfect deck that could go in.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Umori, the Collector. He's Ooze.
Ooze.
2 and 2 black-green hybrid thingies, legendary creature Ooze. He is a rare 4/5. As Umori, the Collector, enters the battlefield, choose a card type. Spells you cast of the chosen type cost 1 less to cast. He has Companion. Each non-land card in your starting deck shares a card type.
Yeah, so that's a very real downside. I've put this one in starting 40s whenever as the companion. But if you do go this route, you're going to have a lot of good utility in your creatures. You're going to play like a lot of mutate effects. You're in black-green, so you're going to be able to buy things back from your graveyard. So this one will work as well, I think. Obviously, you're giving up on the ability to play things like Blood Curdle, Back for More, the better spells in this color combination. But I think because your deck is just constantly drawing creatures, you're constantly putting pressure on the board, constantly drawing threats, and I think that's a really powerful game plan that your opponent is just going to eventually run out of ways to interact with you. So Umori, as much of that companion clause looks detrimental, I think it can be overcome quite easily, especially in the color combination like I mentioned. So Umori is a solid 3 for me, and I think when if it is a companion, your deck goes up in power level a good bit because now your creatures are also cheaper. And if you can get this thing out faster, wow. Scary stuff. Very powerful card, 3 indeed. And then there's this thing.
Aw, it's like a goose.
It's a bird snake.
Bird eel thing. Yorion, Sky Nomad, 3 and 2 white-blue hybrid things. Legendary creature, Bird Serpent. Rare 4/5 with flying. When Yorion enters the battlefield, exile any number of other non-land permanents you own and control. Return those cards to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. Companion, your starting deck contains at least 20 cards more than the minimum deck size.
That's a 60-card limited deck right there. Do not do this. Simply because you will not have enough good cards. There is no conceivable way to do this. Well, not I say conceivable, but there is no good reason to do this in limited. You will not have enough good. You won't have enough good cards, and you will definitely not have enough cards to use that ability, which once you blink and into the battlefield, there's not going to be a reason to do this. Constructed standard, call me later. This card's really powerful there, but by itself, in your starting 40 in your blue-white decks or whatever deck it's going to go in, this is still a really powerful card here, and the ability to have, if let's say that you attacked, they didn't block, play Yorion, and reset everything. So it has like pseudo-vigilance almost. So in that regard, Yorion's really powerful, and at that, it's about a 2.5. And if you've got any ETB triggers, this goes up in stock a lot more. So pretty powerful card here.
Aww. It's a fox thing.
Just a fox.
Zerda, the Dawnwaker. 1 and 2 red, white hybrid things. Legendary creature, elemental fox, rare, 3/3. Abilities you activate that aren't mana abilities cost 2 less to activate. Huh? This effect can reduce, this effect can't reduce the mana in that cost to less than 1 mana. That is so you can pay 1 and tap it. Target creature can't block this turn. It has Companion. Each permanent card in your starting deck has an activated ability.
This companion can't work in limited. There are not enough activated abilities on your creatures to pull this off. Play it in your starting 40 in your aggressive red-white decks. Mutate things onto this thing. Go crazy that way. Basically, that top line of text just doesn't exist for Zerda in limited. Constructed, yeah, go for it. Zerda, that being said, the ability to not have things block If you're in a very aggressive cycling red-white deck or just go wide deck, that can do a lot of damage very, very quickly. So Zerta can really do some damage here. So I like Zerta quite a bit. This is a solid 2.5 for me, but you want to be aggressive and just ignore that companion text. That is the last of the colored cards. We are moving straight into colorless. There's only 3.
Adaptive Shimmerer. 5 creature, insect, common, 0/0 with flash. Adaptive Shimmerer enters the battlefield with 3+1/+1 counters on it.
This card sucks. 5 mana, 3 things with flash, that's just bad. Don't play this card. To mutate on it, don't do this. Just don't do this.
Instead of cards, like, why enter with 3+1/+1 counters on it? Why not just enter as a 3/3?
Like, actually give it 3/3 toughness?
Yeah.
No idea. I'm not quite sure what the mechanic on this card is doing here.
Because I know that in this format, or in this whatever, you can remove counters from things. There are ways to remove counters, but I've noticed this on quite a few cards, actually, where it'll be a 0/1 or 1/0 or something, and it'll say, it enters the battlefield with 3 of these. Why not just bring it in as...
No idea, but this card is bad.
Okay.
Unless you just, like, hurting for mutate targets, I would not go for this one at all. This is just not good.
No.
This one, however...
Look at the little glow fox. Farfinder. 3 colorless creature, fox, common. He is a 1/1 with vigilance. When Farfinder enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand, and then shuffle your library.
Yeah. So Farfinder is for the decks that are not green, that need to have a splash color. Like they're going to play, like they're red-white, but they need a black swamp for a blood curdle or something like that. This is how you can potentially get there for those ultimatums. Still wouldn't try it in not green decks, but you do you. I've seen that this thing is pretty powerful, though. Like it's a 1/1 that sucks, but the fact that it can chump block after effectively drawing you a card, putting it in your hand, and you get to play that land next turn, that's pretty powerful stuff here. So I like this in the decks that need to have the mana available for them. Other than that, wouldn't really touch it. So that being said, if you are drafting a non-green 3+ color deck, this is a pretty solid fit for you because you're going to get these in the draft relatively late when you are, done taking all the cards that actually matter for your deck, and you just need the way to actually cast those spells. So this is a 1.5. It's not very exciting, but it will work for the decks that need it to do something.
Super adorable, though.
Super adorable. Next up.
Mysterious Egg. 1 colorless creature, egg. It's a common, 0/2. Whenever this creature mutates, put a +1/+1 counter on it.
I want this card to be good so bad. The fact that it's Mothra's Cocoon in limited right now because of the Godzilla draft cards just attracts this thing. I draft this thing more than I should, if I'm honest. If you are in just the purest mutate deck, this thing is crazy because it's just so thematic. That being said, you probably should not draft this card as much as I do. When I get my stat email at the end of the month to say, hey, Alex, you drafted this many of a common, this will be my top drafted uncommon because I just can't. I would not draft this one. It's cool, it's flavorful, but I would not take this over more impactful cards. There's probably a better card in your pool to play over this stupid thing. 1.5. And that's the end for the colorless cards. Let's switch immediately to our artifacts. This is far easier.
I'm out. No, I'm just kidding.
We're almost done.
Crystalline Giant. 3 colorless. Artifact creature giant. He's really cool looking. Is he squatting?
I don't know, but totally. It's Mechagodzilla right now in draft.
Totally squatting.
Looking
He is
down
a
at
rare 3/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose a kind of counter at random that Crystalline Giant doesn't have on it from among flying, first strike, death touch, hexproof, lifelink, menace, reach, trample, vigilance, and +1/+1. Put a counter of that kind on Crystalline Giant.
This card is ridiculous and is a must kill on sight. because there will be a point in the game where you can no longer destroy this thing. It just can't be tangled with anymore. It's problematic as well, just because of how it works in paper. To randomly choose among those counters is actually quite tricky to do it properly with the correct ratios of probabilities and whatnot. Online, perfectly fine. This card is really powerful. This is a solid 3. Any deck will play this because it just goes wherever it wants to. Good stuff.
Indatha Crystal. Indatha.
Indatha.
We'll go with Indatha.
Indatha.
Crystal. 3 colorless, artifact, uncommon. You can tap it to add white, black, or green, or cycle it for 2.
Yep. So I will go ahead and say this as a blanket review for all 5 crystals. They are all about a 1.5 or 2. If you need them for fixing, obviously take them. If you're trying to splash for colors, by all means. But if you are in green, I would try and stay away from these because you've got better ways to fix your mana than paying 3 mana for a rock. Thankfully, you can cycle it, and that's where that 2 comes from. So all of them, perfectly playable. If you need the fixing, they're all 2s.
Oh, Ketria.
Do you want to read it?
Ketria Crystal. 3 colorless, artifact uncommon. Tap it to add green, blue, or red. Cycle it for 2.
2.
Ozolith. 1 colorless, legendary artifact, rare. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had counters on it, put those counters on the Ozolith. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if the Ozolith has counters on it, you may move all counters from the Ozolith onto target creature.
This card is so weird. This is why all those creatures come in with +1/+1 counters.
Yep.
Instead of power.
Yep.
This is why. So this counts for all the Death Touch, the Menace, the Flying, the like all of those things revolve around the Ozolith here. This is a huge build around, and I would not try this one at all. This is cute, but I'm not about this life. Pass. Build around it, but pass.
Rogren Crystal. 3 colorless, artifact uncommon. Tap it to add blue, red, or white. Cycle it for 2.
Yep, that's a 2.
Savai Crystal. 3 colorless. How about that? Artifact. Uncommon. Tap it to add red, white, or black, or cycle it for 2.
It's a 2.
Sleeper Dart. Oh, he's doing a snooze. 2 colorless, artifact, common. When Sleeper Dart enters the battlefield, draw a card. You can tap it, sacrifice Sleeper Dart. Target creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step because it is snoozing.
Yes, finally an artifact I can talk about. The card draw on this, pretty good. The ability just to lock down something like use the Frost Lynx or Archipelago ability is quite powerful here. This is a great tempo play. I would not take this highly, however, but if you're in a really aggressive blue-white, red-blue tempo-y deck, I can see a place for this. And again, it does draw you a card, so there is that. So yeah, lock down their big guy, beat in, and go for them. It's a 2. More like a 1.5. It's not exciting, but it'll get the job done sometimes.
Springjaw Trap. 1 colorless artifact, common with flash. You can pay for and tap it. Sacrifice Springjaw Trap. It deals 3 damage to any target.
Cool stuff. The fact that this is colorless damage base removal is pretty potent, and the fact that it can literally just act as a trap. You know, your opponent clearly has to always take into consideration, are you blocking? Do you have mana available to activate this thing? Or are they at 3 life and you can just kill them? This also doubles its damage off if playing Obosh. Good stuff. That being said, it's still not very good. This is a 1.5, maybe a 2 if you're really scrapping for removal, but you'll find better removal in this set.
Zagoth Crystal. 3 colorless, artifact uncommon. Tap it to add black, green, or blue, or cycle it for 2.
2. And that's it for the artifacts. Let's move into the lands.
Hooray! Forest. Oh. Bloodfell Caves. Land. Common. Bloodfell Caves enters the battlefield tapped. When Bloodfell Caves enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. You can tap it to add black or red.
Alright, there are 10 of these in this set, 1 for each color combination. They are all good if you need the color fixing. They are common, so you'll see them often in the packs, so draft them if you need them. They are all 2.
Blossoming Sands. Land. Common. Blossoming Sands enters the battlefield tapped. When Blossoming Sands enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. You can tap it to add green or white.
You can just say it gains you life and it taps for a color.
Okay.
Oh, we have to talk about this one.
Bonder's Enclave. It's a land. Look at the little thing. It's like chilling. It's like, hi. Anyway, it is a rare. You can tap it to add a colorless. You can pay 3 and tap it, draw a card, activate this ability only if you control a creature with power 4 or greater.
I have actually played this one. I was quite impressed with it because most decks will have a creature that can qualify for this one, especially if you're in a green deck. You can get to this very, very easily. And if you're, drawing extra lands, if you've got not a lot to do, if you're stalling out in the mid game like most games will do before everyone starts drawing their haymakers, this will pull you ahead very quickly. That being said, this is a colorless mana source in a set that needs a lot of colored mana to work. So play this one and just kind of keep that in your mind, back of your mind. So if you've got things like the 1/3 druid that taps for mana, or just any way that you can also fix your mana, just be aware that this one might bite you in the ass at the wrong time. Just saying. Still pretty powerful card here. I'm going to give this one a solid 2. Repeatable card advantage is always good and limited. Good stuff.
Dismal Backwater. It comes in tapped. You gain a life. You can tap it to add blue or black. Evolving Winds.
Winds?
Oh, Wilds. My bad. A little tired. Eyes are crossing from... Anyway, tap it. Sacrifice Evolving Wilds. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library.
It's a fetch land. It's going to go get your basics that you need to splash your colors. It's playable. What do you think this one is? It's a 2. Play it if you need it. All right.
Indatha Triome. It is a land, plains, swamp, forest, rare. You can tap it to add white, black, or green. Indatha Triome enters the battlefield tapped, you can cycle it for 3.
Yeah. There's also a cycle of all of these. There are 5 of them in all of these wedge colors. Again, if they're in your colors, play them. 2. Pretty easy stuff.
Jungle Hollow. It comes in tapped. Gains you a life. You can tap it to add black or green.
2.
Ketria Triome. You can tap it to add green, blue, or red. It enters tapped, or you can cycle it for 3.
Yeah, the fact that these have basic land types on them does not matter for limited. That's okay.
Rogran Triome. You can tap it to add blue, red, or white. Comes in tapped. Cycle it for 3.
Yep. That's 2.
Rugged Highlands. Guess what? It comes in tapped, and it gains you a life. You can tap it to add a red or a green, though.
Tapping lands for mana? Obscene.
I know. Hey, that was a 2.
Oh, it's also a 2.
Savai Triome. You can tap this one to add red, white, or black. It enters the battlefield tapped. You can cycle it for 3. It is a 2. Scored Barrens. Comes in tapped. Who would have thought? You gain a life from it when it comes into the battlefield, and you can tap it for white or black. Are you getting the pattern here?
Yeah.
Swift Water Cliffs. Comes in tapped. You gain a life. Tap it for blue or red. You're going a little fast.
Doesn't matter. Just name the cards.
Thornwood Falls. Comes in tapped. Gain a life. Tap green or blue. Tranquil Cove. That's pretty. Tranquil Cove. Yeah. Comes in tapped. Gains you a life. Tap it for white or blue. Windscarred Crag. It's old Crag. Are you playing those love games with me? Tap it for red or white. It gains you a life. Comes in tapped. Zagoth Triome. Oh my god. Oh, I thought those were little creatures. Tap it for black, green, or blue. It comes in tapped. You can cycle it for 3.
That's it. We're done.
Oh my.
Yeah, long story short, all the lands are 2s. Play them if you need them. The Bonder's Enclave, obviously. Do what you need to with it. That is the end of the gold, the artifacts, the colorless, and the lands for Ikoria, Lair of Behemoths. These are always long ones, the ones at the end. I appreciate you for hanging out and watching at home. I hope you've learned something and taken some of this back to your experiences on Magic Arena, Magic Online, and your pre-releases once they happen in a few weeks. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Do the clicky, likey.
This was a trap.
This is obviously a trap. Clicky,
No,
likey. Or is it backwards? Anyway, doesn't matter.
we'll get that one.
And don't forget to let us know what your favorite cards in the set are down in the comments. What you're excited to open up in Limited, draft, build within Standard, what your commander decks are going to be. Ready to hear it all. And we'll be back next week for more of this nonsense.
Really?
Really.
Oh, okay.
Really.
See you next week.
Bye, guys and gals.